here today that you totally underestimate the widespread popular and public anger at the imposition of your water charges. These were, let's be fair about it, a Fianna Fáil idea in the first instance, but you have underestimated the determination of people in every house, in every street, in every Stroid Walla, in every county across this state. And you said, and I quote back, some people don't want to pay. Some people have an ideological position in this. What about the people, Taoiseach, who can't pay? People who can't afford to pay. You're ignoring that completely. And I have to confess at times I find it difficult to understand your attitude. And then I'm reminded of the differential approach you take to the elites in the European Union and the banking fraternity and big business and so on and so forth, and your attitude to what you would refer to as ordinary citizens. And those ordinary citizens were on the march last Saturday, and I'm very, very proud to say that I was there with them. Now, they're sick to the teeth of the relentless austerity, the endless list of taxes and charges and cuts that you have brought in aimed at low and middle income families. And for many, this water tax is the last straw. And Taoiseach, by your remarks today and your other remarks, you just dismiss these concerns. And from the very beginning, the establishment of Uisce Éireann, of Irish Water, has been one debacle after another. It's replete with a bonus culture, reeking of cronyism, and now you're frantically briefing the media that, you're going to introduce measures to alleviate the burden of water charges, that all of this will be straightened out. And you did this again today.
Thank you.
Let me tell you, Taoiseach, talk of flat charges, of changes to the Board of Irish Water, of improving your communication strategy, all ignore the main point. What citizens want from you is a very clear statement that you've listened to them, that you hear what they're saying, and that you send a message from here that you will scrap water charges. So, Taoiseach, that's my question to you today. That you've listened to the people, that you hear what they're saying, that they cannot afford to pay this charge, and that you will scrap water charges.
Thank you. Taoiseach.
Well, it's obvious that you listened to some people anyway, because you changed your tune again. You came in a fortnight ago and said, of course I will pay the water charges because they're the law of the land, and we know that you're a very law-abiding citizen. And when you see movement on the streets, you change your tune and say, oh no, I won't pay for my holiday home in Donegal. I'm not going to pay the water charges there. So, if you want to run with the people, with the tide of people who say, okay, I'm not going to pay these water charges. Obviously, you've gone down the road of utter populism, and it's not the first time you've changed your mind, not the first time you've changed your tune either. So I would say to you, I'll answer your question. I have listened to the people. The government are listening to the people. The government are engaging with the people, with Irish Water and the Board of Arvia. I hear what they have said, and what they have said is they want clarity, they want certainty, they want fairness. They want fairness. Yes, and some people. Yeah.
Sorry,
so
would you mind, please? Thank you.
I want you to understand, Deputy Adams, that this government are not going down the road of having to raise 850 million by extra tax increases or by cutting other services. What we need here is a capacity to have an independent commercial public body borrow money off the balance sheet and invest in the infrastructure that's very necessary. Example. Dublin City Council proposed to spend €350 million on upgrading the treatment works out at Ringsend. The Minister has just come back from there, And because Irish Water is a public utility, it's able to do that work for 170 million, thereby saving the taxpayer 170 million and having that for further investment in other schemes that need that. You realise, and you've often spoken about environmental issues, the number of towns in this country where raw sewage is being pumped into rivers and lakes and the sea. And we can't go on like this, and we won't go on like this. So the answer to your question, Deputy Adams, is that the government will not drop the water contribution charges. But what the government will do is, having listened to the people, is bring in a regime that is clear, that is fair, that is affordable. And when we do make our decision on all of these matters, people will understand very clearly that the contribution they make is going to help fellow citizens in other places around the country who don't have a quality water supply, no more than in this city or Cork or so many others. I'm quite sure, Deputy Adams, that you would agree with me that the 170 million saved today by the decision of Irish Water to invest in Ringjet would, for instance, allow them to say we have 20,000 houses in the country where there are lead service pipes going into those houses. We need to change that, Deputy Adams. We need to have a time scale to take out those pipes and restore them properly, so that people will understand that what was left to them for years is now being removed, that they have a safe piping system, a safe water system of high standard. That's what the investment is about.
Thank you.
Let's all understand that we want our country to measure up in terms of our environmental responsibilities, our high quality water systems, and not be leaving hundreds of thousands of people to an inferior situation. So from that point of view, we won't be dropping these, but we will make them as fair as we can make them in the interest of everybody.
Deputy Adams, 1 minute. Thank you.
Well, Taoiseach, you know all about changing your tune. Your manifesto, the basis on which you were elected, the mandate you were given, you tore it up as soon as you got your bum on that seat. You ignored the people. You gave us all the lofty rhetoric about a democratic revolution. You wouldn't even let us discuss this issue in this chamber. You imposed guillotine after guillotine after guillotine. Unprecedented that all of the opposition parties and deputies walked out of here in protest at the way the government was imposing this unfair tax upon citizens. Now, your words are words without substance. I'm disappointed still about what you have said, because you've said that you're going to ignore that particular grouping of people who I identified and who you must know in your own constituency, who just can't pay. And these people are actually afraid. Elderly people on their own who don't like to be in debt are waiting for the bill and don't know how to pay it.
Thank you.
Sinn Féin have put forward a bill. Our environmental spokesperson, Brian Stanley, has introduced a bill. It's a constitutional amendment bill. It's to allow for a referendum to retain control of water services in public ownership. Now, you protest, Taoiseach, that there's no privatisation subtext or agenda here. Will you now, having said you're going to ignore the people on the issue of unfair water charges, will you now say that the government will facilitate the Sinn Féin bill, will support the Sinn Féin bill, will put it speedily through the Oireachtas, and will allow the people a say in a referendum on this issue as quickly as possible?
Thank you.
No, I don't accept your proposition at all. You said the government didn't listen to the people since we were elected here to government. Well, Deputy Allen, I challenge that assertion, because I was out in the houses with the people who put their mortgages together and found the buildings were disintegrating with pyrite. I was down and met the residents in Priory Hall and the unfortunate case that happened down there. I went and met the Magdalens here and in England, and we dealt with them. We've put in place the compensation scheme for those who had to deal with symphysiotomy. And yes, we did listen to the issues that were raised here about medical cards by many deputies over a period of time. So it's not a case, Deputy Adams, of ignoring the voices of the people. Rather, is it of listening to the people and making decisions that can bring a conclusion to these things. And in the case of water here, we've already made 2 policy decisions, directions to the regulator, and that is that children are free and there's a 30,000 allocation per household. Now I accept that the current structure of the regime proposed for contributions is confusing. And what government will do now is, having listened to the people, having listened to the anxiety of those who say they cannot afford to pay, of those who have difficulties, of those who are in particular categories, that we will attempt to address that now, Deputy Adams, in the very fairest way that we can. And for instance, those who live alone will have 40% of their water needs provided by the allowance, which works out at about 50 cents a day. And obviously government, as you know, are considering how best to help that category of people, the same as everybody else. So what we want genuinely now is to put in place a regime that will allow borrowing off the government balance sheet to deal with the big issues around the country, and in respect of that we ask people to make a fair and modest contribution in respect of the domestic water supply, where allowances are built in, and in return for which they get a high quality water system. No, I won't support the Sinn Féin bill. I will not support the Sinn Féin bill. No, I won't. And obviously we'll have a full-scale debate here in the House with Minister Kelly when the government announce their decision. And I hope that can be in the next 2 weeks.
Deputy Collins, thank you. Deputy Collins, thank you.